Welcome. This is Jay Larson, CEO of the Idaho Technology Council. Thank you for joining us for our weekly podcast, Innovation Matters. Kind of interesting. There's a lot of smoke that's been whirling around Idaho and the Western United States from a lot of forest fires. Something happened August 9th of 1944 that was very innovative, where the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council agreed that they'd create a fictional bear that would be the symbol for their joint venture efforts to promote forest fire prevention. In August 9th, 1944, Smokey Bear was born. And it's something that we've utilized as a symbol towards us helping with innovation to fight and help the safety of our forests. We might want to look at that as we continue to go on. But today, I would like to welcome two amazing guests. We have Amit Jain, the professor and department chair for the Boise State University Computer Science Department, which has had fantastic growth over the past 7 years and is a major talent supplier to Idaho tech companies. But before we get to talk with Amit, we get the opportunity to talk to Marc McDonald, who is the Senior Vice President and CFO for United Heritage. Marc, welcome, and how are you doing with all the smoke in the area?
Jay, it's great to be here. It's always great to spend time with the ITC, and I'm always amazed at your leadership and the team's work in relation to my native state of Idaho and the things you're doing. As it relates to the smoke and what's going on, I'm probably surviving like many others, and look forward to a break from it here in the near future.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Marc, thanks. You've been a part of the Idaho Technology Council for several years, where you've been our treasurer. You've been very engaged in a lot of our initiatives. We really thank you for that. I know you were at Deloitte when you were doing parts of that. Now you're obviously with United Heritage. Tell us a little bit about what United Heritage does for those who aren't aware of what a fantastic jewel United Heritage is for Idaho.
Yeah, Jay, in regards to United Heritage, we are a holding company for a portfolio of insurance companies serving the Pacific Northwest as well as throughout the United States, including our life company that provides life insurance, pre-need annuities and other products, and our P&C companies, two property and casualty companies that provide property and casualty insurance to those in the Pacific Northwest all the way down to Arizona.
Yes, so it's been a fantastic company and is one that will be a major player in the future of growing innovation. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, but I'd love to come back to this innovation question with you for a second. But first, tell us a little bit about COVID-19 impact on United Heritage and how you have pivoted as an organization with this, what people might call the new normal.
Yeah, no, I guess I'd start that off by, hoping that you, your family, as well as anybody that's viewing this and otherwise in the state of Idaho and beyond, hope everybody's safe and healthy and recognizing it's a challenging time for all. As an organization, United Heritage, we're always focused on ensuring we've got the right personnel as well as the programs and so forth to be able to deploy those in the time of need. And COVID-19 was no different than that. We do have an infectious disease management plan that's part of our enterprise risk management that we deployed at the onset of COVID-19 and it proved to be quite successful. At this point in time, and even back then, almost immediately we deployed 70% of our workforce remotely, which is no small task from a technology perspective and otherwise. And then kind of moving on from the immediate into kind of the intermediate, we've have an active response team, which is cross-functional across the organization, including myself on the financial side, technology side, the presidents and others involved, actively meeting on a weekly basis, at least a couple times, to figure out how we need to adjust to continue to do things and so forth. As you know, the environment continues to change from a stay-at-home to otherwise, as well as our workforce is quite impacted. Now, for example, school's in and some kids are online, some kids are in person. And so we've done that. Also, we've effectively will not come back in full force on site no earlier than January 1st, 2021. Have designated that to our employees to give them some comfort on where we're at on this. We will continue to reassess that. Some of the other things we're doing, surveys. We have a number of surveys with our employees, and we'll continue to do those to ensure that we're allowing them to work effectively and efficiently to serve our agents and policyholders, which is our number one goal. And for me, my time at ITC, and I reflect upon this type of situation, I also think long term. As an organization, we're thinking about what remote deployment might look on a long-term basis, even post COVID-19. We've found it to be pretty successful, and in some cases, very much appreciated from the employees' perspective, in making them efficient and doing what they need, and being able to deal with not only work but their personal life as well. It's made us focus a little bit more on the digital side, just continuing to enhance what we're doing on the digital side to better serve our agents and our policyholders. It's made us think about our culture. We have a great culture, but just thinking how does that adjust when you start thinking about portion of your workforce being potentially permanently remote. And it is technology. It's whether it's going to virtual, also as well as the hardware and the co-locations and so forth, just rethinking. It gives us time to think about those things that we've been working on, but continue to have another opportunity to do so.
So I was interested, you just mentioned something about this work-life balance type thing. So you think that United Heritage has looked at this as a tremendous opportunity to find better balance on that because of COVID-19?
Absolutely. Part of it is, historically, and we had some of those even historically, that the work-life balance of which they got to work at home for a portion of time because of their situation. But even more so probably now, in that we're able to see that, 70% of our workforce is able to work very efficiently on a remote basis. I think a lot of it will depend upon the technology needs to a certain extent, as well as just, whether or not an individual can function independently, as well as, or if they need to function more as a group. But there's clearly a number of tools. Microsoft Teams is a tool that we use to collaborate, and we've found it to be very effective. But clearly something that we're working through, both as a leadership team as well as with our employees, collaborating with them.
And now, Marc, are you working mostly from home, or are you going kind of a mixed bag on working from the office and home? What's your situation?
Yeah, I'm primarily from home, which also provides its challenges with two young kids running around and
and a dog named Grady, right?
Yes, Grady enjoys when I'm home, although he barks that every time an Amazon package comes by.
I have my same dog do the same thing. Bella does the same thing, and it is crazy. They know the sound of the truck and everything, and then anyway. So, but you had actually one of the big things I was interested in too is, I think that a lot of people don't recognize that. Here you have what we call a fintech, a financial technology company with United Heritage. And I think innovation can be a very big thing, and you just referenced some of that in your first statement here. But I've heard a little bit about what's called AIR, which is, I think, adaptable, innovative, and resilient initiative that United Heritage has. Can you explain that to us and a little bit more about what it does?
Yeah. Thanks for asking about that. It is one of the acronyms that we do follow is AIR. It's an initiative that was brought forth by our new president, Todd Gill, well over a year ago. And adaptable, innovative, and resilient is kind of the terminology. And when we look at it as an organization, United Heritage, we think that acronym very much aligns very well with our overall business strategy. It aligns very much with our culture and our impressive workforce and ability to be able to deploy or work on those particular terms. It's something I'm really passionate about, and Todd's passionate about. I mean, when we think about adaptability, some of the things I talked about COVID earlier, about how we've been adaptable as an organization of that. The digital, I talked a little bit about that earlier. and how we're being adaptable, even in the COVID environment, and furthering our digital presence out there, and how we serve our customers ultimately. Innovative, and all these acronyms are very much aligned with what the ITC and what I know and what you guys do on a daily basis to lead us in the state of Idaho. The innovation thing for us, it's not one specific, point in the month. It's a daily activity that every employee participates in. And it's been interesting as we've deployed that acronym, and as of recent celebrated some of those big successes, giving three awards as of recent, which Todd calls the Crystal Eagles, for activities that are consistent with our overall business, our business strategy, as well as AIR. Some of the daily things that we've been focused on are, evaluating processes and streamlining those processes. I talked a little bit about virtualization as it relates to technology, as we envision a future that's maybe more remote than what we currently may have. Been doing a lot on the big data side and virtualizing our data, both our internal and our external data. This has also resulted in a project management org that we have stood up to deal with a number of projects. And the last.
Mark, could you do a quick favor on that? I mean, I think that I love this idea of AIR, and you were mentioning a lot of different things that you've been doing. Is there a specific example of something that you've done through AIR that you think stands out more than any other?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to bring it down to one. Some of those maybe more recently is just our conversion. So if you step back in the insurance and what we do is it's very much a personal interaction between the agent and the policyholder. And so in the COVID environment, it becomes much more difficult to have those interactions. And so we've really pivoted and innovated in the way that we approach that, including some of incremental technology as it relates to digital signatures. Clearly, Team and other Zoom and other tools out there to be able to interact in a way that still allows the agent to be successful, the policyholder to complete their transaction, and us ultimately to be able to serve them. So, I mean, I think that's a number of different things that we've done in that area to really serve our agents and our policyholders. And that's something we're always working on. COVID probably just elevated or made some of that more efficient or a bigger focus in the near term.
Well, I think that AIR, I love that. So I love hearing more about that. And well, another one that I always put whenever I attach with United Heritage, it's been the amazing culture you've had there with Todd, and now with Dennis Johnson before. United Heritage has always excelled at being a fantastic place to work and to represent. Tell us a little bit about how culture is made, how you maintain this really wonderful culture, and how that differentiates United Heritage.
Yeah, no, I think culture for many, including myself, when I think about United Heritage, is synonymous with the name. And you spoke about some of the historical leaders, and Dennis being one of those, and he's still definitely involved. And Todd following him up, and just the history had. As it relates to the culture, what I think, as I think about it, and as you mentioned, I was at Deloitte for a period of time. There's not many organizations that would pull me away from that opportunity, but United Heritage is one. And from a culture perspective, it's very much employee centric in regards to how decisions are made, considering an employee as part of that conclusion. Looking out for each other is really important. We very much enjoy our time together and try to celebrate. We celebrate the wins we have. We celebrate the things that we do together, and we celebrate when others do well. So those are some of the things. The other one I would just say is transparency. We're very transparent with each other. That allows us to get perspective on how others view it. We ask the tough questions, but we generally distill down to the right answers. And then that culture. I think with COVID-19, we're getting further into defining that culture. We're putting it on paper exactly what it is, as well as we're working on how do we see the culture changing with potentially remote deployment of certain of our personnel? And how do we need to think about that? But clearly, even with that considered, we're not going to lose the legacy that we have and the key tenets that we have with our culture. And I truly believe our culture sets us apart from many in our industry. It assists us in recruiting, and it clearly helps with retention. That's one of the organizations that I've been involved with throughout my career that has numerous professionals that are 30, 40 years of time there. And so,
well, I think what you just described too is that there's the United Heritage family. I mean, you really do things you do it right. You really tie things together, and people really, when they say it's a quality organization, and a lot of that has to do with how you treat innovation, technology, but more importantly, how you treat each other. So, and I love this because you were just talking about one of the biggest challenges is how the agents, how you do that with how that all works, and the shifts with COVID-19. So, congratulations on getting that figured out too. So,
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what, Marc, I think you and I, we're going to talk more about the fintech industry in Idaho, and we're going to do some work on that. So what I'd like to do is put a bookmark on this and have you back on and talk about the fintech industry in Idaho in more detail, probably in a few months. Does that sound good?
That sounds wonderful. I would very much appreciate that and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's good. So thanks, Marc, for being on Innovation Matters, and we appreciate all that you do for the Idaho Technology Council Innovation and for United Heritage. So we're going to now move to our next guest. Our next guest is Amit Jain. Amit and I have known each other for quite a long time as well, because we worked very hard to be able to do certain things that Amit's been the leader on. And Amit is the chair of the Computer Science Department of Boise State University, and has been responsible to really help a transformation of a program. Amit, welcome to Innovation Matters.
Thanks, Jay.
Can you, Amit, while I'm talking about this transformation of the Computer Science Department of Boise State, can you talk about where you were 7 years ago and where you are today with the Computer Science Department at Boise State?
Yeah, I mean, 7 years ago, we were a small department, but 8 faculty, 20 to 25 graduates a year. And we moved from there to about 25 to 26 faculty. And this year we had 135 graduates, 115 undergrads, and then 20 masters and PhD. We did not have a PhD program, so many faculty would turn us down. They wouldn't show up here. We started in 2016, and 4 PhD students graduated last year. We've hit 100 graduates consistently per year now for a couple of years. So goal really was, with all of the money that the state put in, the university put in, industry put in, was to get up to 100 to 120. So in some sense, we achieved the goal. We got that metric of 100. We used up all the space we had. We used up all the faculty lines we had. So we kind of hit that metric. And it's been amazing. The research has really picked up too. The research funding is probably gone up by 50 to 60 to 70 times than what we had then.
Wow.
And that's important in drawing good students, especially out of state, because they want to not just come take classes, they want to also do cool projects with the faculty.
You know, Amit, just put a pause on that just for a second. I totally appreciate and agree with you about how important it is to faculty here and to be able to have research that they're doing. I know this puts you on the spot a little bit, but can you tell us about what you would say is just, I know there's several of them, but give us one example of some of the research that's taking place at Boise State in the Computer Science Department with your faculty.
Yeah, actually, there's quite a bit of research going in, like machine learning, natural language processing, AI stuff. So we hired maybe 5 to 6 faculty in that whole area, data science, AI. We have a bunch of faculty in cybersecurity. We have a faculty that's doing a cyber physical security research. So they, for example, are working with Suez and all the systems that control the water flow and how those can be hacked and how you can protect them. This faculty, she actually has a NSF Career Award, which is a very prestigious national award. Right now, the department has 5 NSF Career Award faculty. So they have 5 nationally recognized young, all of them very young faculty that are there. So they bring that to the classroom. They enjoy interacting with the students. And one of the things we've always kept is we have small classrooms. We do not have large classes. Even the freshman class that I'm teaching, we just have 30 to 35 students. I know every single student. They can't hide even on Zoom. So
that's a good point. You can't hide. But here's the cool thing about it is that you have, in the last 7 years, become one of the top computer science programs in the Western United States. I know that there's a lot going on, but I think that's important. Talk about how many of your students graduate and work for Idaho companies.
Yeah, that's been a very interesting statistics. Even back when we were 20 students to now that we're 130, 35, it's pretty steady that 90 to 93% of our graduates take jobs in Idaho. They don't leave the state. Most of them Boise area, but actually all over Idaho. We have roughly 30 to 35% students that are out of state. So I would say we're one of the very few schools that actually do a brain gain, where students come to study and they stay there. Most schools, especially in a smaller city, students come and then they leave for big cities.
It's part of this is because you have a little bit of a look like Xavier from X-Men. I think that's why. Just want to let you know that. So I know that's
it's a look like the Rock.
Yeah, it's the Rock. Okay, it seems stronger. Okay, so let's talk. You've got a really strong industry advisory board led by Jim Gassaway from Count. Can you talk a little bit about why it's so important to have that connection to industry and why it's important to have such a strong industry advisory board?
Well, first of all, you want industry to be closely connected to the department so that we're in sync, right? We're teaching things that will lead to students going to these companies and being really effective engineers and developers, right? We want their input into our curriculum. We want them to be more involved. We have a lot of industry people that come to our classroom and take part in it. That's one of the reasons we are in downtown, because most of these companies are within a few blocks. Now with Zoom, it's a little bit easier to connect with more companies, but even then, it's still a big deal for students that everything is within a few blocks. So that connection is important, making sure, for example, when we got 8 new faculty positions back in 2016. We went to the industry advisory board, like what areas should we focus in? And we got lucky. We were one of the earlier people that went and hired in machine learning and data science and cybersecurity, especially machine learning. It's impossible to hire those people now. We were able to succeed. We made 12 offers and 11 people accepted. And I was talking to big schools like Oregon State, and they were making 10 offers and only getting 2 people accepted. But they were doing it in 2018. We were a couple of years ahead.
So why were you able to be so successful in recruiting these faculty to Boise Boise State?
A couple of reasons. One is the industry told us to go for it early. And I think the other big reason is, the livability of Boise. For them, Boise is the ideal place to live in. The connection with industry was a big part of it. Industry often took part in the interviews. And now many of these faculty do have consulting and connections with these companies and research projects. So now I think it was a big part of how nice a place Boise is to live in, plus the industry connections. That together, and with all the investment that was going on in the department from the university and state, those 3 things became really strong. And we got some top faculty that came in.
Yeah, and I'm interested. I mean, it's amazing the support that you've got from industry. I know you've had a lot of support from the administration at Boise State University and a lot of the folks there. You've had a lot of support from the state legislature and the governor's office. It's really amazing what they've done to be able to do this. I think that this is really a success story for Idaho, don't you think?
Yes, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah. That was good. That was just a yes, no question. I really like that. But let me go on for this a little bit more, man. This is going to be one of the biggest challenges, I think, is going to be being able to stay ahead of the curve. Meaning there's this big intellectual demands of what's going to be taking place over the next 5 to 10 years with respect to, you talked about it being the brain gain in Idaho, but there's going to be a whole bunch of new technologies that are going to be coming down the pike, and the rate of change is going to come at us in a very large fashion. How do you stay ahead of a lot of these new technologies, and what's the way that you keep your faculty ahead of the game?
Well, I think a big part, I would say there are 2 parts to it. Actually, I'll share 3 parts, right? So one part is, for them to be, when they're teaching all these, we create new classes with these new topics. We kind of bring in industry people to co-teach sometimes or design classes. So we're keeping up with the class offerings with the new topics. Second one, obviously, is research, because that's, what you do is create new stuff. And I think the third one is that there's actually not that much new in the new technologies. People think that stuff is changing all the time, but the fundamentals if you deeply understand the fundamentals, it's easy to transition to new technologies. One of the things that we always look at is, if can one of my graduates go to a company and keep switching technologies effectively, then they've learned the right stuff. And we get that feedback from the companies that our students as a group do much better at adopting new stuff because they learn how to learn. So I think that's all kind of a combination of all three things.
That makes total sense. I love that. And I think that this is one of the biggest questions I think would come with all of the advances and all of the growth that's taken place with the Computer Science Department of Boise State. What's next?
What's next is, well, I can't go outdoors to have fun. I can be indoors. Next is to survive the next 2 years, I think. No, I think, the Dean Joanne Leidy and I've sit down and Tim Anderson too and looked at the next thing. So what some of the things is take the idea of this computer science department and kind of make it bigger into a school of computing that encompasses many different areas. Like, no, we're starting to work closely with business now. Obviously, we work closely with engineering and math and all the different things, life sciences, biology. But now we're starting to just, I'm in the process of getting a grant that involves political science and computer science. Don't ask me what it's about, because I can't tell yet, but it's combining those two things, okay? And it involves, the legislature will be part of that too, or the government will be part of it. So there is all kinds of, computer science can be applied almost anywhere. Art, the new World Museum, that Boise State just is opening, that has a computer scientist, Dr. Steve Kutchin, is a big part of it in creating that. So so there is a lot of connections that can happen. The other thing is we've talked about, yes, all of things, this thing will pass. It's not going to be here forever. So the long-term plan, of course, is like, where do we go next? We've kind of used up the space and the resources. But the long-term plan is two ways: grow the computer science part. We'd like to get up to 200 graduates, which is going to put us on the map. But also really increase the influence and participation of computer science in all these other fields. Because you never know where the next good idea is going to come from. So I don't want it to be limited to only one narrow field like engineering or just science, but anything.
Well, Amit, we've been talking about this quite several times. We call it the computing skills, the computing alliance within the Idaho Technology Council, because it hits artificial intelligence, it hits fintech, like we were talking about with Marc. It hits e-commerce, it hits AI and analytics, it hits mobility and Internet of Things, right? It's everything.
Don't forget, agriculture right now is one of the most advanced users of tech. They're leading, like AI and data science.
Yeah, you could go and talk to Vid over at Simplot, and you'll find out he would tell you how intellectual property and the new technologies are the driver of Simplot, right? So
several faculty. They're doing research with Simplot. Tim Anderson took a sabbatical just to help him create a data science machine learning team. So they're, really jumping into this all out. And that's applied computer science.
Yeah, I think this would be great to be able to have a deeper discussion about how the correlation between your faculty, the students, and industry. So maybe we could have you on another time to do a deep dive into that. The other one that I really like to let you know is that we're very thankful for the work that you do, that Joanne Leidy, the Dean of the College of Engineering, does with that. Tony Rourke, the Provost, as well as to Dr. Trump. All of you, they've been very supportive of everything that's taken place within this department, and we're so appreciative of that, because it's a gem. Because as companies come and look at Idaho, we talk to them about what's happening at Boise State's computer science department, and they're in awe of the growth and the accomplishment that's taken there. So thanks, Amit, for all you do.
You're welcome. You're not going to ask about COVID and all the problems that are going to happen because of COVID?
Well, let's end it on that, because we started that with that, right, with Marc. Let's end it with you. Talk about COVID really quick and all the issues around that, or at least your biggest issue.
Big concern was, COVID started in March, right, in a big way. We had our big graduating class, about 64 students, I think, were graduating in May, and all the companies freaked out. We were like, oh, they're going to stop hiring. And so what we do is when they graduate in May, they fill out a survey where they tell us, where they're going for work and all this kind of stuff. Now, it's Idaho. Some people think they should never get information. So we don't always get complete information, but I was just looked it up. 70% of students had offers in May. So it had dropped. Typically at that point, when they graduate, it's about 80-85%. Then what we usually do is wait 3 to 5 months and come back and ask them again, because some of them don't fill it and some of them take off, which we haven't done yet. But typically by that point, it's 95 to 100% have jobs. So I was pretty happy to see that it only dropped from 85% having offered to 70% in May, which was the height of the pandemic, and most companies are just shut down completely. Interestingly, there were several companies that planned to take advantage of this and double their engineering force. A couple of them are recruiting heavily. So we had several companies that are actually, because of the online stuff, the demand for their product has gone through the roof, and they actually doubled the number of hiring they usually do. And then there are companies, the big companies are always hiring. But it was interesting, there were some of the smaller companies just went like, not 4, we're going to hire 8, we're going to hire 16. They just doubled it.
Wow. So you're saying that what ended up happening is there was a big, you went down a little bit because of just what happened, the pure nature and the actually devastation of what happened in COVID during that first couple of months, and then you just saw the spigot opened up much bigger than at the end after a couple of months, right?
I was talking to the students graduating this semester, and very few are not lined up the jobs. Maybe 5 or 6 out of 40. Everybody else already lined up jobs.
Wow.
The other concern for me that I thought is, well, everybody working remote, maybe companies in Idaho now can just go hire somebody from anywhere in the country, right? Why do they want students from Idaho? Well, the other people want a lot of money. So what we're finding out is, yes, they're willing to work here, but they want the same salary as San Francisco, or maybe 10% less. So they're saying, give me $200,000 instead of $250,000. Well, my students will do just as good a job for far less, right? So, I mean, I don't think that's going to translate to much change, because they're still not going to want to work for companies here. So I think I thought that would be a big concern, but it hasn't really hit it.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So, well, it sounds like it. And by the way, there was a big concern that you would see a big drop off of enrollment for this year at Boise State and other higher education. I mean, anywhere from 6 to even 20% were some of the numbers, right? What have you seen so far in the computer science department at Boise State? Any numbers you can share with us?
Yeah, actually, the numbers are pretty close to finalized now. So Boise State overall, I think it's gone up slightly, like 1%, which is amazing. Nationally, people are dropping, as I said, anywhere from 4 to 5% to 20%. Even other universities in Idaho dropped like 4 to 7%. We went up. In our computer science, the undergrad went up about 1%, and the graduate students went up about 8%. So we actually increased a decent amount.
When are you going to graduate your first PhD student?
We already did last year. We did 3 students. Yeah.
3 students last year. Okay, good.
Maybe depending on the timing. I think it's 4 students. Two went to industry, 2 went to universities. Yeah.
Congratulations! That is totally awesome. All right. Well, so now I know I'm not going to call you Xavier, but I'm going to call you The Rock. So that's one thing I learned from this today.
That's what Tim called it. So. That's what
Tim Anderson. By the way, that is another person. Tim Anderson was the computer chair that before you, and has been your. You guys have been the tandem that has created the monster change in the computer science department. So, thanks for that. Anything else? Any last parting thoughts, Amit?
Not really. I think we're in a good place. We gotta wait this thing out and see what happens. I don't see demand for software going anywhere. I mean, it's gonna become more important the more we do remote stuff. I am concerned about keeping companies here, but I think as long as we keep the high rate of production, that's not going to change. And I was concerned about companies being able to hire from anywhere. But the thing is, if I'm in Seattle and I want to work for a Boise company, I'm still going to want my salary that's in Seattle. So that's not going to fly. Or even if they move here, they might take a 10% pay cut, but they're not going to take a 50% pay cut. They don't even know what 100,000 is. That's too little for them.
I think it states to the point that when Microsoft decided to pull back 50 plus engineers to Redmond, that we need to be able to look at, the strengths of Idaho. It's like we're talking to Marc, when we start looking at the strength of certain industry clusters, they're starting to grow stronger and stronger. I think every 2 to 5 years, you're going to see some major strengths that are going to continue to galvanize and strengthen industries in our state that are around innovation and technology. And then I think the other one that you're talking about is that, recruit people and have people come that want to be here, not take advantage of our strengths, right?
Yeah. And I think another thing is we have good quality. I think this is the number industry loves. So all of our graduating students take this major field test done by the, ETS, same people that do ACT and GREs. And that's the industry was worried. We've always scored in the top 10 to 15 percentile in the country. And this year, 100 plus students took it. And the concern was if you go that high a number, the scores are going to drop. I'm happy to report, especially the spring class, they had to do it all remote under very difficult circumstances. The spring semester, those 64 students placed on the 93rd percentile.
Wow. So this is awesome. This is a real win because it shows the quality of the graduates that are coming through the program, right?
So it is actually, what we do is it's an average score of all of our students in the exam compared to the average of other universities. So that's
and talk about who some of those other universities might be.
It's like 200 to 300 schools that take part in it. Not every school's in it. I don't think MIT students take it or Stanford students take it, but you got big and small schools all mixed. So it changes 200 to 300.
But we're on the upper top. When you're talking about University of Utah, when you talk about BYU, you're talking about Colorado. All of these places are probably taking it.
For a lot of them, anything that's accredited, they usually take that exam. Another way you can look at it is now the U.S. Department of Education has a scorecard on universities. They go and say, if you major in this field, in this school, the graduate students make this kind of salary. Because, the universities have been making a lot of claims, so they said, we'll provide you data. Right? So this data is all verified because they have access to all this salary information. So, and this is 2 years old data for us. They're roughly 59, and so the average salary for Boise State students was $74,000 from 2 years ago. I know it's higher now, but that was higher than like Oregon State, Washington State, higher than University of Utah. It was $1,000 less than BYU Provo, but cost of living in Provo is much higher. So it was, and University of Washington's average salary was $92,000. Then you take $74,000 in Boise, you put it in Seattle, it's $130,000. So
that's a good point. You know what? So what you're saying is that we actually have pretty good salaries, which that's always a big discussion that we have here. We have decent salaries, but we also have good quality of life. And what I want to really make sure that people that we understand is that the quality of that 93 percentile that you have on the test, that industry test, is a phenomenal score. You've actually had it up as high as 96%, if I'm right about that, a couple of years ago.
There was one batch one year that was 99 percentile.
Was it really? Okay.
They won a special plaque, but we didn't give it.
Well,
it's
great stuff.
No, I think the point about the salary is also that I had a student who went to Wall Street, and she compared with her friends who stayed back here, and she was kind of crying. She said, my friends who stayed in Boise have more money left in their pocket than I do, even though I work on Wall Street.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very good point. So I would tell you that we really appreciate that. And I really, again, say United Heritage is a success story here as a company that's been in the Valley for decades. And what you've done over the last 7 years with the Computer Science Department of Boise State has been miraculous. So thanks, Amit, for that. We'll have you on again. But we really, as we come to a close on this, we're so honored to be able to have Marc, McDonald, and Amit Jain as our guests next week on September 24th. We have another couple of individuals that are on our Board of Trustees. Jay Reynolds, the CTO and Chief Information Security Officer at HealthWise, will join us, as well as John Stifler, the Director of Corporate Information Technologies with Boise Cascade. I also wanted to make sure that I leave with one more thought. This is what is innovation? Albert Einstein said this: creativity is intelligence having fun. So let's go out and have some fun. This is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology Council, keeping you connected with industry and government, because in Idaho, innovation matters. Have a great day.
Thank you.
As we adapt to changing times where organizations and government agencies are working remotely, it is increasingly important for us to stay connected with local tech companies like Cradlepoint, Truckstop.com,
Experis, FlexTrax, Idaho Central Credit Union,
as well as
Mayor Debbie Kling.
and Mayor Rebecca Cashmer.
Isn't there a direct correlation usually with the goods transported across the country and the health of the economy and possibly going into a recession or something like that? Is there a direct correlation there?
What's cool on the technology side, people are having to, like the webinar usage, you talk about the bandwidth that just skyrocketed.
Discuss what Idaho's economy and government leaders are doing to ensure Idaho's economy weathers the storm.
Idahoans also have a culture of taking care of each other. We have a culture that includes doing things intelligently and the right way. And I think that's part of what's going to see us through.
So I should not just limit it to the United States, to the world. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't want you to sell us short, Jay. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks. This is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology Council, keeping you connected with industry and government, because in Idaho, innovation matters.
Innovation matters. Innovation matters.
Thank you all, and be safe out there.